remember being 14 and thinking, I will have my life together by the time I go to college. And I was 19 and I was like, you know what, I'm really gonna have it together by 25. And then I was 27 and I was like, you know, maybe 40. David got me this mug one day when I was having a bad day. Thought it would make me laugh, and you know what? It did. Anyways, we made it through the first quarter of 2024. That was me giving you a high five. I'm gonna do it again so you have time to prepare to put your hand up to the screen so we can do a virtual high five. Okay, you ready? You have to do it. I'm gonna know if you don't do it. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Did you do it? I actually have no way of knowing. So I was just thinking about how at this time last year I felt like a bag of garbage. I was right on the cusp of like a 5-month stint of burnout, which stemmed from a lot of things, most of them self-inflicted. I was struggling with life as half content creator, half corporate employee. I felt very confused about my content. I felt like I was losing my voice and just my creative vision. And then likewise, I was falling behind in the corporate world because I was straddling these two lives. It's hard to live two lives. My hair was also falling out. I wasn't feeling my best appearance-wise. And so all of that propelled me into my very first quarter life crisis. By very first, I mean third, maybe fourth. Anxiety was a lot worse. My mood was a lot worse. If I'm being honest, I was kind of a monster. And I was just feeling very unmotivated and just like life was falling apart. And you know, I don't feel like anyone ever really feels like their life is totally together. Like if you think of yourself as a mountain, there's always little rocks falling off, right? Little things going wrong. But then there's also times in your life where the whole mountain feels like it's crumbling. And I'm realizing that this might not be the best analogy because I don't think that mountains implode on themselves. But I think you get what I'm trying to say. Like you just never want to feel like the whole mountain is crumbling at once. And that's how I felt last year. And so this year, I was like, I can't let that happen again. And so I took some steps that I feel like have really improved my mood and my anxiety and my productivity. And I just want to talk about what those are in case you too feel like a mountain that's imploding on itself. So the first thing I did was I stopped subscribing to the idea that I needed to have a routine. Also, we're gonna do this while I go about my day because I really struggle to just sit and talk to a camera like an overactive 7-year-old. Also, I'm hungry. I feel like routines are pushed really heavily on social media. Like you need to have a perfect morning routine where you chew rocks and run a marathon and recite your incantations. Otherwise, you'll never be successful. And so I tried having a really strict morning routine. Well, what happened is I would wake up, not want to do the routine, and then I'd feel like a failure the rest of the day. And then I also felt like a failure because I thought routines were supposed to be this amazing thing that make you successful. And if I can't stick to a routine, then I'm never going to be successful. But then I saw this concept of menus. Instead of having a morning routine, you have a morning menu. Sorry, I'm pointing at you with a knife. I know that's a little aggressive. So for example, instead of waking up in the morning and saying I have to run a mile every morning, I wake up in the morning and I say, how do I feel this morning? And then maybe I feel like running, but maybe I don't feel like running. And so then I look at my morning menu, which can be a physical thing, but for me, it's just in my mind. And I say, okay, I don't feel like running, but I feel like journaling and doing 10 minutes of Pilates. Still healthy things for me, just not as aggressive as running. And then I can still check those two things off and feel accomplished for the morning rather than starting the morning feeling like failure. And honestly, giving myself permission to not have to adhere to a routine actually made me want to do routine things more. So like exercise, when I viewed it as something I have to do every single day, I hated it. But now that it's just something I can do if I feel like it a lot more. So if routines don't work for you, consider a menu. Next is going to therapy. I've been going to therapy on and off for over 10 years, mainly to help with social anxiety, but also with just life changes, relationship changes, career things. But in 2022, I took the year off from therapy because I was just generally in a good place and I was like, why not save a little bit of money? Kind of wish I hadn't done that though. So I started going again in 2023, when the aforementioned third quarter life crisis happened. And I realized that if I had just kept going consistently, even just once a month, I probably would have been more well equipped to handle what was going on in my life. So now even when I feel like I don't have anything to talk about, I still keep my therapy appointments and we always end up talking about something insightful. There's a spatula. And she flipped the quesadilla without breaking it. Success. I actually feel really lucky because I've found an excellent therapist who really understands me, and I feel like that's the hardest part of therapy is just finding somebody who gets you. Honestly, it can be more frustrating than dating. And that brings us to the sponsor of this video, BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/morgancook to get started. You'll just answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a therapist, usually within 48 hours. And you can also have your session via video chat, call, or messaging, so you don't even have to leave your home, which if you're a homebody like me is amazing. amazing. So again, the link is in my description if you want to start your therapy journey today. All right, next is working outside of my home. Now, obviously, a lot of us worked remote during the pandemic, and then we remained working that way for like 2 to 3 years, and now there's return to office mandates, which I have a lot of thoughts about, but that's not the point of this video. But as an introvert, working from home was like the best thing that's ever happened to me, kind of. Like, it was great at first, but then I think spending so much time being comfortable, being alone, I just no longer appreciated it as much. I feel like I lost the ability to enjoy the comfort, and also doing things that made me uncomfortable, like even just going out in public just became way harder than it was in pre-pandemic life. I just didn't want to feel that way because I was afraid that it would hold me back from certain opportunities in life, hold me back from experiencing life. So I started just taking my laptop and going to a cafe to do a little work, because I didn't feel like the solution was going back to the office 8 hours a day, because that was affecting me negatively in other ways. But getting out of the house for a few hours, having these tiny little interactions with people, and just doing things that give me anxiety, and yes, going to cafes does give me anxiety. I get very stressed about ordering and finding a seat and making sure that nobody's looking at my screen, because I get nervous that people will judge me for editing my silly little videos of myself. Anyways, doing all of that, even though it's mentally tiring, has, I think, helped build up my confidence again. So just getting out of the house more, having tiny little interactions with other people, I feel like can be really helpful if you're feeling in a bit of a slump, and especially if you're an introvert like me, getting back out there just helps build up that confidence a little bit. And then another thing I've been doing is scrapbook journaling. I've never been a very consistent journaler, and when I would journal, it would be about like sad things, or like when I was having a mentee bee. And so my journal is just filled with all these sad things, and it's important to journal when you're feeling sad, but I also wanted to memorialize the good parts of my life. So I started scrapbook journaling, or I think some people call it junk journaling. It just incorporates a more visual element into journaling, which I think is more fun. I don't worry about perfection. I know my pages will not be sophisticated pieces of art, and that's fine. I just document like the fun little parts of life. Little date nights, girls' night, like little wins. It doesn't have to be anything big. I still journal about the bad stuff too. It's just in a separate journal. So I have like a dark, scary journal that no one should ever read, and then I have my scrapbook journal that I'll actually want to look back at. And so it's motivated me to actually journal more, and it's also just like a fun little creative thing to do. Okay, so I'm gonna go clean up my room now, which actually segues very nicely into my next point, which is micro cleans. And welcome to my disaster of a room. I was filming outfit videos today. It's not normally this bad. So I'm a pretty messy person, and cleaning really overwhelms me. And I tried doing the whole Sunday reset thing where you just like clean everything in one day. My brain kind of short-circuited when I tried to do that. I just want to rot on Sundays. Like, I don't want to clean. I definitely don't want to clean everything. And so I've started doing this thing that I'm calling micro cleans, where I have this list of things that I need to clean weekly, and then I have a list of micro cleans, which are basically things that I can clean in like 30 minutes or less. I try to do 1 to 2 of those per day, and I use Notion to track it, which if you want to use my template too, it is linked in the description. In that template, it tells me when the last time I cleaned something was, which is super helpful because I will grossly underestimate the amount of time that goes by between cleaning. Like my makeup brushes, I'll clean them, and then for 3 months I'll be like, just clean those, don't need to do anything about that. And like, it's been 3 months, I do need to do something about that. Just having that little tracker helps me make sure that my things are actually clean. And also just assigning myself 1 to 2 things per day really helps my brain, because most of the time when I see that something is dirty, I'm like, okay, I need to clean that, and then I think of 7 other things that need to be cleaned, and then I get overwhelmed, so I clean nothing. But with the micro clean schedule, I'm like, okay, I have 2 things to clean today, that's it, doesn't matter what else is dirty, and my brain feels satisfied with those 2 things. And then by Sunday, I just have very basic chores left, so I actually can spend most of my Sunday rotting. Okay, next thing is finding exercise that I actually like, and this is not supposed to be there. Where is the hair? I know nobody really wants to hear this, but exercising does actually make you feel better, especially once you enter your late 20s. Like, that's when you can really feel the lack of exercise. And personally, I hate exercising. I think that the fact that we must physically suffer in order to be healthy is weird. But listen, if I want to look hot and prosper, I gotta do it. So I've accepted that I'll never be a super high intensity workout person. Like no HIIT, no running, no CrossFit, nothing that makes me sweat that much. Also, I have practically no willpower, so my workouts have to be pretty easy. I love the basic like 12, 3, 30 or whatever, like the incline walking, because I can do it while I'm watching a little YouTube video. Also, I only do it for 20 minutes, but I do it at 14% incline, so I think that balances out. And then I also try to weight lift twice a week, and for that I just put my podcast in and I do the same routine every time so that I don't have any decision paralysis. Like, I just know exactly what I gotta do. I get in the gym, I get out of the gym, because if I have to decide what exercise I'm doing along the way, I'll usually just end up quitting exercises because I don't like them, and then I'll end up not really having worked out. So, gotta have a routine in advance. I know I said the whole thing about not having routines earlier, but this case is different. I will say now that I've been exercising, I do actually feel a lot better. Like both mentally and physically. Like my brain is less foggy and my back hurts less. If you are somebody who also hates working out or hates going to the gym, I would highly suggest Pilates. That's what I started with. I just did little videos at home. There's this one girl I really like whose name I can't remember right now, but I'll put it on the screen. And I really liked her Pilates videos because they just have music to them and she's got a little timer so you can just follow along while you're watching a show or something to distract you from the fact that you're making yourself physically suffer to be healthy. Another thing I've started doing is doing my nighttime skincare by candlelight or while watching a YouTube video. I have an issue with picking at my skin. So underneath this makeup is a bunch of red splotchy patches because for some reason I have to pick at every clogged pore that exists on my face. Is it OCD? Is it ADHD? Is it ABCDE? Is it self-loathing? And by that I mean self-loathing. Listen, I don't know the reason, but I do know that I can't hold all this. I do know that it makes me feel really insecure about my skin. So to prevent myself from picking at my face at night, which is when I usually do it, instead of turning on the big light in my bathroom, I just use a candle to do my skincare. Sometimes I'll turn on some relaxing music. Other times I'll watch a YouTube video. And then doing it that way kind of helps me look forward to actually doing my skincare because normally I hate it. So if you're somebody who struggles with skin picking, I would definitely recommend trying the candlelight method. Or if you're just somebody who struggles with consistently doing their skincare, just coupling it with something else you really enjoy, like a YouTube video. I feel like that's a good way to make it something that you actually want to do. And now speaking of nighttime, I've also been drinking a magnesium drink at night. Also, it's time to clean the kitchen. Now, I did not hop on the magnesium trend recently. I know it's like a very it girl thing to do now, but I did it before it was cool. I started it in 2018 because my doctor told me it would help me poop because I have IBS. But up until about a year ago, I've kind of just been chugging it, just throwing it back like it's medicine. Then it started popping up on the TikTok. People making their little sleepy girl mocktails. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll try romanticizing it. Got me again, TikTok. So now I've been actually pouring a full glass and I'll sip it in the evening while I'm reading or watching TV. And honestly, it's kind of nice because it just signals to me that the day is over. Like it's time for the phone to go away. It's time to fully and completely relax. Now, magnesium is thought to have calming properties. So could I be feeling calmer because of that? Perhaps. Could it also be a placebo effect? Also perhaps. Regardless, it is a really nice nightcap for me. And I think just finding something like that for yourself, whether it's a little drink or lighting a candle or playing some calming music or whatever, just finding something that elicits a feeling of calm in you, especially in the evening, I feel like it really does help you sleep better. I basically just conditioned myself. Like when I taste my magnesium drink, I feel more relaxed. Is it science or is it brain manipulation? I don't know. But either way, I sleep better. Next thing I've been doing is tracking my spending and just shopping more mindfully. I used to spend money without any thought. Well, some thought. I'm not like dropping thousands of dollars a day, but you know, I would just buy clothes or things for my apartment without really thinking about it, which I'm in a pretty privileged position where I got a good job right out of college and was able to pay up my loans pretty quickly, and I just didn't have very many financial obligations, so I didn't think about my purchases very deeply. But I found that I would often have buyer's remorse. I always felt like I had nothing to wear. I didn't really love the stuff that was in my apartment, and then so to cope with those feelings, I would shop more, and the cycle would continue. As I started learning more about overconsumption and just the effect on your mental health and on the environment and all this stuff, I decided that I wanted to spend more mindfully. And so last year I did a low buy year. I started to track what I was spending and I would make wish lists. I was waiting to buy things. I wasn't making any more impulse purchases. Now when I do purchase something, I actually feel a lot less buyer's remorse. And I'm actually really starting to love my clothes again. Like analyzing my purchases each month has just made me a lot more aware of what I'm spending on and made me more aware of where I should be allocating my money. So yeah, I cannot recommend tracking your spending enough. I will link the template that I use for tracking my finances in the description if you want to take a look. And then the last thing I've been doing is living life for current me, not 50-year-old me. Last year I spent a lot of time making decisions based on how it would affect me in 15 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. And I'm not saying you shouldn't think about the future, but you can't obsess over it. I just spent a lot of time talking to my therapist about this because I had so much uncertainty about my career and my relationships. What I ultimately learned is you have to make decisions based on what feels right and rational in the moment. One of my big concerns about content creation has been, is it something that I'll be able to do when I'm 45 years old? Lucy's here. Like, will I hit age 40 and have no employable skills because I spent all of my 20s and 30s making silly little videos for the internet? There's been a lot of times where I'm like, should I just go back to my full-time job in corporate America? And I would say this to my therapist, she'd be like, no, don't do that. He asked me, are you happy right now? Can you pay your bills right now? Are you living in an apartment that you love? Do you enjoy the work you're doing? Do you have work-life balance? And my answer to all of those were yes. And so she was like, why would you change that for the slight possibility that you'll be more employable at age 45? It's like, you have no idea what employable skills will even be like in 20 years. Like, you may die before then, which is morbid, but possible. She was basically like, if you couldn't pay your bills, then I would be having a different conversation with you right now. Like, we would need to do something about that. She was like, I think the decisions you're making right now are rational and they're making you happy. So there's no need to change what you're doing until it's no longer rational or it no longer makes you happy. And that just changed my perspective so much, because I have spent so much time worrying about whether or not I'm wasting time at a certain job, on a certain project, with a certain person. And now I kind of view it as not a waste of time if it's something that I am enjoying. Like, if I'm happy and I'm learning, then even if something doesn't work out, it was still worth it. And so as long as I keep making decisions based on what feels rational and right in the moment, then like everything else is gonna work itself out. And that mindset has just really helped lessen my anxiety about the future. And now that's the end of my list, but I'm not gonna get up because this cute little boy is snuggling on me. Yeah, those are some things that I feel like really have helped me get my life together over the past 6-7 months. And it's funny because I remember being 14 and thinking, I will have my life together by the time I go to college. And I was 19 and I was like, you know what, I'm really gonna have it together by 25. And then I was 27 and I was like, you know, maybe 40. And now I've just kind of accepted that it's never gonna be fully together. And I feel like that's because life isn't a puzzle. It's just never gonna be fully put together. I'm never gonna wake up every single day and feel like everything is perfect and amazing. It's just always gonna be something crumbling off the mountain. Not to go back to the slightly flawed mountain analogy again. But like, there's always gonna be things crumbling off the mountain, things going wrong. But when you step back and you look at the whole thing, it's still really beautiful. Now I'm gonna make myself cry. Yeah, just when you step back and you look at life, even when things are going a little bit wrong, it's still a really beautiful thing. And I feel like you can appreciate that more when you just accept that everything's not going to be together all the time, and there will probably never be a time where everything actually feels like it's together. Maybe that'll happen for like a day or two or a week or a second. Yeah, if you feel like you are at the mass crumbling stage, I hope at least one of the things I talked about can help you feel a little more together, or a little less stressed, a little less anxious, whatever it is. If you have any habits that you started that have made you feel better, please let me know in the comments so that other people can benefit from them as well, and so I can benefit from them. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any new content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!